Looking for some inspiration? You've come to the right show. Step into your divine feminine energy with me as I spill the tea on leadership and life. Hi, I'm Tracy Imm, your host here on Brave Girls, and I've got your back, and no mean girls are allowed. I've been called the fairy godmother of storytelling, and my gift is to unearth people's stories, share them, and make the world a better place for all of us. So sit back, relax, and listen in as we send some more positive vibes out into the universe. Enjoy the show.
Welcome back to Brave Girls with Tracy Imm. My name is Erin Vernon, and I am the founder and CEO of Everspark, which is a digital and social media marketing agency, and I am Tracy's chief strategist for all of her social, digital, and branding efforts. Definitely proud member of Team Tracy as she's trying to make bold changes and brave moves in this world. And today's episode of Brave Girls is going to be a little different. I'm going to turn the mic around and interview our host. So we are going to go behind the scenes of the Brave Girls reboot, talk about Tracy's leadership journey, and tease what's coming next, including season 2 and an exciting new resource we have in the works called Brave Girls Academy. So, Tracy, I'll get started with the big question. Why the reboot?
Yeah, why the reboot? This is a great question, Erin. And I just want to say shout out to Erin. Erin has really been instrumental in getting me rebooted in many ways with my brand out in the world. And so I feel like the time was right. We're post-pandemic. I did start the podcast back before the pandemic. I interviewed a ton of people. It was really one giant experiment back then. And I feel that now is the time for me to really step out. And I really feel like I have something to say, and I want to share with the world sort of some of my thoughts. And I also know that I'm really, my soul is a creative soul, and I really crave expression. And so for me, this is an outlet for my expression of my creativity. And I feel that I really want to motivate and inspire other women sort of out in the world with some of my thoughts and some of my experience. And so I've learned so much on my journey. I've had so many different types of experiences that I really want to give back to the world. I want to serve other women in a way that really helps them along their journey. And I really love storytelling. And when I initially started the podcast, it was all about capturing those stories of other women who have really done super brave things and been through some super crazy situations and emerged on the other side. So it just felt like the right time intuitively. But I also knew that I didn't want to do it the same way that I had done it before, which was pretty much through brute force and, the help of a virtual assistant. And so I really felt like it needed to be a little more strategic. That's why I brought you on. I found a different VA, and I really felt like if I could have a team to produce this would really elevate the podcast. Podcast landscape has also changed dramatically from when I first started. When I first started, there were very few women podcasters, and now there's gajillions of them. But I still didn't want to let that hold me back, that there was more competition, because I'd had such great success almost immediately when I launched it the first time. It went viral in some crazy number, like 67 countries. And so I felt like, okay, well, it is resonating, these storytelling, these interview formats. I was very consistent, because that was one of the things I had learned, is that you have to be consistent. And so I just learned so much about the medium of podcasting the first time around. And so I had a lot of the infrastructure in place so that when I brought you and Misty, the VA, on, it was just a matter of like really reestablishing a lot of what was already in place, but thinking through, and you and I had done this, we had spent a lot of time around that strategic thought around what is my brand? How did I want to show up in the world? You were really instrumental in pushing me to think sort of very strategically, which I really appreciated, Erin. I think that's one of your gifts. You also, the social media landscape. I didn't want to spend a lot of time trying to learn that because it changes every day. And so I wanted an expert to really help me think that through. And I think the result is season one came out and it showcased a lot of that. The feedback that I'm getting on the reboot is really positive. The questions that are coming to me that people want me to answer, I think is really exciting, that it's sparking thoughts in people. And then that helps you and I develop the content around what's resonating with people, what people's questions are, what people are struggling with. And so if I can offer that perspective through my interviewing with other guests and other women, and I can showcase them and their businesses or their like stories, I feel like that is value add. Who doesn't love a good story, right? I mean, if you think about Disney and all the different, a story just it can draw you in if it's told the right way.
Absolutely. And I think your point of view and your perspective is so valuable right now. And I'm glad you didn't let the saturation of the marketplace turn you off from sharing your experience with everyone, because I always say, there's enough for everyone to go around, especially when it comes to women with competing with each other. There's so much space for all of us, and we all have things that are worthy and valued to share. And it's been a joy and something really special to come together with you and be strategic, but also, as you said, listen to the feedback and make sure that we're putting out something that people want to hear and people are going to connect with. So, with that being said, you've worked with women leaders all throughout your career. What do you think women need most from their workplaces right now?
Yeah, this is a fantastic question. I think the number one thing, like I immediately, when I thought about this question, is flexibility. I think women are the caregivers of the world, which is going to be my season three is about caregiving. But I would say that the number one thing that women need right now, especially in corporate, is flexibility. And I think that is also when they're not getting that from their corporate environment, that is why they're jumping into entrepreneurship, because then they can write their own ticket. They can really call the shots on who they work with, when they work with them, how they bring their skills to the table, and things like that. And so I think that the best companies out there are going to be flexible with women, flexible in terms of depending on what season of their life they are in, whether it's young children, caring for aging parents, caring for handicapped children, those types of things, and offering resources and support systems in that space, because I think so many women now, we're college educated. A lot of us have master's degrees. We've got the experience. And so I think you don't have to sit at a chair 9 to 5, 5 days a week in a building somewhere. You can work globally from your home office, just like you do. And so I think that the number one thing that people really need to think about, especially in corporate, when you're a corporate decision maker, is what kind of flexibility are you giving for women to really bring their talents and skills to the table? We are masters at keeping all the balls up in the air and moving and things like that. And so I think the smart companies out there are recognizing that and adapting post-pandemic.
Yeah, that's such a great point. Gone are the days where we focus on work from 9 to 5 and nothing else. It's all bleeding together, and we have to make it work and work in harmony. And there does need to be flexibility. I think that's such a great point. Um, so we are on the Brave Girls podcast. So speaking of brave moves, bold actions, could you share with us one bold move you've made in your career that really paid off?
Yes. So one of the things that I did, which I'm not a big risk taker, but I took a risk. I took a 3-month assignment that had no like definitive outcome promised to me um, when I took it, and I decided that what's the worst thing that can happen? I'll figure it out, right? Like, so I was working for this company, and they were in the middle of acquiring another company, and it was very complex. And the company thought it was just going to take 3 months to like buy this other company. Well, it took 3 years. So part of my assignment was I had to move away from my husband and leave my house for what I thought was going to just be 3 months. And so I was like, okay, well, I'm willing. At the time when I took it, it was going to be, leave on a Sunday afternoon and come back on a Thursday night and work from home on a Friday, but be on location for the where we were acquiring this company. And it was in Oswego, New York, which, if you know where that is, it's on Lake Ontario. It's in the middle of nowhere. And so I decided that I didn't have anything to lose. I had been with this company for a while. I knew I was going to do a good job in the 3 months and so it was just going to be a minor inconvenience for 3 months. Well, fast forward, I did this for 3 years. And as a result of that sacrifice that I made, it actually propelled my career to heights I would have never imagined, because while I was working in this role and in this capacity, um, I was being observed by senior executives, and I didn't realize that. I was involved in a lot of aspects of this acquisition that I was able to, learn as I went and really just step into leadership and to showcase what my skills and abilities were. So much so that at the end of the 3 years, I got the most fantastic role in this company that gave me a team of 35 people reporting to me, in
Mm,
addition to 4 agency relationships that I was managing. And I would have never gotten that visibility if I wouldn't have taken the leap of faith and just said, I can do anything for 3 months. And then I got to the point where I was like, I can do anything for a year. I can do anything for 2 years. And so I just kept changing my mindset as I went through this. And I was like, the most important thing is to just do a good job and
mhm,
to learn as much as I can, build relationships as much as I can, work on hard assignments as part of this. And so I would say that um, while a lot of people probably would have shied away from like a three month assignment with no guarantee that you're going to land in any kind of a job, let
mhm,
alone a promotion with a lot of responsibility. And so I would say that that was probably the boldest thing that I did, that I could have never foreseen the downstream impact by making that decision and
mhm,
just sort of taking that leap of faith, because literally they told me, they're like, we can't guarantee that you're going to have a job in 4 months.
mm.
It's crazy, but that's how it worked out.
Yeah. So talk about a leap of faith that really paid off.
It really did. It really did,
Mhm,
because not only did it propel my career at that company, but then all the subsequent jobs that I got, and all the skills that I was able to bring to other companies, and all the experiences that I had had in like different functional areas. I mean, I did everything from setting up the government relations and lobbying effort to the environmental strategy to operational things to it was just kind of crazy, like what I was able to garner from that 3-year experience to then fast forward place me in a really good place in terms of being attractive to recruiters in other industries even.
mm, mhm. That's amazing. And so we talked a little bit before about how, ever changing the work landscape is, and being a leader, and even being a person in this world, with what's happening in the world, what's happening in our own personal journeys. We talked about caregiving, amidst all that noise and all the chaos that can come about of just living. How do you stay grounded as a leader throughout change and uncertainty?
Yes, because change is constant and everything's going to continue to change. And I think the pace of change has accelerated in the last 10 years and the last year even. But to stay grounded, I think it's really important, to know that you need to stay grounded. But I think a lot of it is rooted in self-care. And I think a lot of it is in meditation and getting still and really asking yourself, what do I really want? Um, and I think also making sure your needs are taken care of so that your cup is full so you can serve others, whether it's your family or your friends or your work. And so I do think that during the pandemic, well, it's probably a little bit before the pandemic, I started a meditation practice. Some people do yoga. For me, it's meditation. It's really just pouring into myself in ways. And then I'm like a list maker. I have like a whole list of things. Every month I write myself a list and I'm like, these are the things I'm going to do to take care of myself this month. Everything from I'm going to get my hair done. I'm going to get my nails done. I'm going to get extra rest on the weekend. And so I'm very intentional about taking care of myself. I haven't always been that good at that. And I've suffered from burnout several times. And so when I start to see that I'm starting to get burned out, that's when I have to call a timeout. And I would recommend that to everybody. Like, you know, when you're burning the candle at both ends, you know, when you're starting to get tired, you know, that you're hungry, you're angry, you're thirsty, or, all the things, right? And so I would say it's in that like sacred self-care.
Mm-hmm. Right. No, that is so important. And I know sometimes I think of it as the buckets, which bucket needs filled right now. And
That's a good
sometimes
way
it's
to look
it's
at it.
not the one
Yeah.
yeah, it's not the one you want to be filled, but it's the one that needs to be filled. And the whole you can't pour from an empty cup. So I love, making sure that your mind and body are sound before you're going out into the world and helping people any way you can. Um, so assuming that you're nice and grounded, do you have tips for keeping your leadership skills sharp?
I do. I do. So when I was about, I don't know, probably like 22, I was very young. I made a commitment to myself, and I didn't realize other people didn't do this when they're 22, but I did. I made a commitment to become the best leader that I could possibly become. And what that really meant was I was going to read every book I could read about leadership. I was going to go to as many seminars and trainings about leadership, and I was really going to become a student of leadership. And that has really served me well. As I've stepped into leadership and as I'm an executive coach. And I find that the number one thing that I have to start with people on is self-awareness. And so a lot of people just aren't self-aware. And so I do think that through my like intentional like goal that I set for myself when I was 21 until today, I've always had that at the forefront, and I've always been fascinated by what makes a good leader. And, I've read everything from books about Colin Powell to Martin Luther King to like you name it, like historical biographies of like these famous leaders. I'm a huge student of Napoleon Hill, who wrote Think and Grow Rich. And he went out and interviewed like 500 of the most successful people and wanted to know what was sort of at the root of their success. And he came up with, I think it was like 12 things or 17 things that were principles that they followed. And so I'm very much a student of that. Um, I've spent a lot of time working on my mindset. And I think that a lot of people don't even think about that. I just gave a session to a group of leaders on emotional intelligence and what does that really mean. And a lot of it is around regulating your nervous system. And so I spent a lot of time post pandemic learning about like the vagus nerve and like things I'd never even heard of. But I do think that you have to be focused on how to become a best leader. And so if you put the time in, and you really study what good leaders do and how they think and how they act, I think then it's adopting that for yourself, you
Yeah,
know?
that's so true. And um, I think that is so important to, you know, leading is not all about talking and, sharing. You have to listen and you have to absorb other perspectives, to go out
Yes.
in the world and be a good leader. And I know on this podcast, you have spoken to so many amazing women and heard their stories. Is there something that you've learned from interviewing all these women or something that has surprised you over the years?
I totally agree. I've interviewed people in every field of every industry, like you name it. I've interviewed entrepreneurs, I've interviewed corporate executives. And I would say that through interviewing them, there's a lot of universal themes that come up that, like, when I think about what made them successful or how they were able to take leaps of faith um, and land where they are today, I would say the number one thing that, like, kind of is like right in front of me is their resilience.
Mm,
And I'm reading a book right now about the Stoics, and they have a whole philosophy around resilience and how you think about setbacks,
mm,
their opportunities to learn, and so, like, it's all about like reframing when something sort of like doesn't go your way. And I think it also, in like this changing world, the more resilient you can be and the more you can build that resilience muscle, I think is going to serve you. Like, not everybody wants to be the top of a corporation, right? And sometimes you can't be the top of the corporation because you have other competing things that you have to deal with, right?
mm,
And that's okay. But if you have a desire for something more or something different, I think you have to think about what's it going to take to be resilient. So I,
mhm.
I, I think it's resilience.
Mm. That that is true. Us women kind of have to be, with all that gets thrown at us. Um,
Yeah, definitely. And like even like some of the people that I've talked to, especially this first season, it was all women of color, and just their lived experience as they were explaining it really broke my heart in terms of how they've been spoken to, and their ability to sort of take it on but then move on, and
mm,
just the level of resilience that they've shown to stay focused on what it is that they do want.
mm,
I think about Bianca Wise, I think about Kimberly Prescott, like some of these interviews and where they were the first, or the obstacles that they have overcome to land where they are today and to continue to press on and to know who they're here to serve and what their skills and their gifts and their talents are that they're supposed to bring to the world.
mhm,
So, yeah, I think it's really interesting when you talk to people in the sort of the universal themes, like the human experience, right?
mhm. Right, right. And I think it's so important to share those stories, the difficult ones, the uncomfortable ones. And I'm so glad, you are giving women that platform. But I love that the women in season one didn't let those things define them. And they, as you
Correct.
said, they were resilient, they moved on, they had those experiences make them stronger and did not stop them from getting out there in the world. And
And
oh,
they continue, yeah, and the goals
yes.
that they've now set for themselves, now that they've gotten to where they are, and where they're going to go next, and how they
Hmm.
think about things, is just, it's mind-boggling to me that the just the strength and the braveness and the courage that they have demonstrated.
Absolutely. Yes. And if you're in this episode and you haven't listened to all the episode 1 or season 1 episodes, this is your sign to go listen to those because just some great, great conversations. And so Tracy, I want to know, and I think everyone wants to know, what is next for Brave Girls and for you coming up?
Yes. So, um, So I'm definitely going to have season two. I'm in the process of working on that right now, and I'm calling it Listen Up. And I have selected individuals that are in the media space, either as journalists, publishers, editors, public relations agency owners, who I really I want them to share their perspectives as from their perspective. They're all either women of color or transgender, something that's different than me. I want to know what their lived experience is and what they are here to tell the world to listen up, because their perspective is really different. So I've got a phenomenal list of women who are going to speak about what it's like to be in that media space as a woman of color, as a transgender person, what they're seeing in the world today. And, they're extremely talented, either writers or PR people or agency owners or publishers, that are really out there. They're also telling stories, and they're also trying to make sense of the world for the rest of us. And their perspective is very different. And so I am super excited to roll this season two out. Just like season one was about amplifying voices, this one is about like, hey, people, listen up to what these people are seeing in the world. They are in the thick of it. 24-hour news cycle, 365, covering the news, covering their beats, really trying to make sense of the world. And so I think that it's going to be really good to hear what their stories are, how they got into this, what they feel like they're here to say. And so I'm super excited to launch that season. And it's going to be about 5 episodes, just like season one. And so I think by coming up with these themes, that's the other thing I did different than the last time, is I'm able to curate the content into sort of like groups. So before it was just, this person, that person. There was no method to my madness. It was just people, women, which was fine. But I realized when I did the reboot, I had to think about things a little bit differently. And I saw that was one of the ways that I could make this manageable, like in my brain. Like, okay, we're going to have a season, sort of like a TV series, right? You're going to have a season, you're going to have episodes, like it's going to, be self-contained. And so I'm super excited to roll that out over the coming weeks with you and Misty.
That's great. I can't wait to hear those conversations. I mean, talk about an industry that has a lot of noise associated with it. Like you said,
Correct.
24/7, 365. So I'm looking forward to hearing those conversations for sure. And could you give a little tease about the Brave Girl Academy and what that is going to look like?
Sure. So one thing that I didn't realize, so both my parents were teachers, and one thing I always said is I'm never going to be a teacher. And then I ended up being a college professor. And I realized that I am a teacher. And one of the things that I also am is a huge connector, and I love to create communities, and be part of communities, strengthen communities. And so when I really step back and I think about, my vision for my life, I feel like I'm here to motivate and inspire and encourage people, specifically women. And I'm also here to create a community, a safe space where people can speak their truth, they can step into their greatness. And so I want to launch the Brave Girl Academy. And the Brave Girl Academy will be that community. It will be a place that you can come and you can get information about different topics. So, some of the things that I've already created that I just want to make available to the world in sort of an evergreen format are some of these classes that I've created and taught over the years that are a little bit universal. I wrote a book called Brave Girl's Guide to Work That You Love, and that was really focused. The genesis of that was a talk that I gave to PR seniors, public relations, communications, mass comm majors in colleges as they were getting ready to find their first job. And it was to really get them on that path, because when I graduated with my degree, I had no clue and I was terrified. And I would have, so I'm trying to be the mentor that I wish I would have had. That would have been like almost like a navigator or guide. And so I want to take that book and a talk, and I want to create a class that you can take online where it's my simple recipe for how to get yourself launched into the work world. And so that's going to be my first course out of the gate. And my vision is that we can promote it, people can, come to the community, and that as we grow the community, that then people can become support for each other. Right. And so that's sort of my grand vision is through the, storytelling. It's also lessons and things that you can learn kind of self-paced. I'll probably also run some courses like live that people
Mm.
can participate in where I'll actually do the instruction live. But I've done a lot of these in my own personal growth and development, and I find them really, really helpful.
Mm. That's so exciting. I'm so excited. I'm so excited for season 2, for Listen Up, for the Brave Girl Academy. These are just really important things that you're doing. And as we wrap up the episode for today, any final words you want to share with our listeners?
I think the main thing is you have everything inside of you that you need. And it's having that belief in yourself to, sort of pursue whatever it is that is important to you, and that you don't really need, like I was always seeking things outside of myself, and what I've come to realize is it's all right inside of you. Sometimes you just need mentors and guides and teachers to help shape that. I still have a business coach. I still have sort of my advisory board of like my kitchen cabinet people that help me. And I do think that that's really important to be able to bounce ideas off of people and things like that. But like, if you have, I think it's important to have a bold vision. And I also think it's important to take brave action, right? And I was on a coaching call with somebody yesterday, and I was like, you don't have to eat the whole elephant. I was like, all you have to do is figure out what is it that you really want for where you are and where you want to go, and then just take the next logical step. And it was like she had the biggest aha moment because she was trying to solve for like the next 10 years of her life. And I was like, okay, well, you don't even know what's going to happen in the next 10 minutes. Like, why would you try and take on that assignment? Like, why don't you just think about all that you've done over the last 10 years? Because she's been in business 10 years, super successful. But where she wants to go isn't where she is, and it's not where she was. So, and I've been working with her for at least 5 years, and I've just seen her ebbs and flows and shifts and changes. And she's the type of person that like will do the work, which is really like you need to be the type of person that's going to do the work and not just keep procrastinating. So I do think, once you have that bold vision, then it's just taking the next logical step. And it may challenge you. You may have to have faith over fear. Like it may not be something that you can visibly see in front of you, but that's sort of, you've got to signal that to the universe. Like this is it, right? And the universe will conspire on your behalf to bring it to you. I really do believe that.
Mm, I believe that too, definitely. Well, Tracy, thank you for letting me kind of flip the script today and interview you. And um, thank you to everyone listening out there. Make sure you subscribe to Brave Girls with Tracy Imm so you don't miss season 2 and any upcoming seasons. And thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to today's episode of Brave Girls with Tracy Imm. I hope you found a gem or two that will motivate you to change your mindset, pursue your dreams, and fulfill your soul's purpose. I believe that we can go farther and faster when we connect in the spirit of positivity and understand how we individually can serve humanity. The world needs more love, so keep shining, ladies. I can be found on my corner of the interwebs at tracyimm.com, and I'd love to connect on social. Just Google me and my SEO will tell you more about what I'm up to as I step into my purpose as a storyteller. I love you, brave girls. Now, it's time for you to step up your game and become the best possible version of you. I believe in you, and you've got this.